There's three things that divide women and men most particularly from the psychometric perspective. One is that women are more agreeable than men. And so that seems to be the primary maternal dimension as far as I can tell. It's associated with a desire to avoid conflict, but it's associated with interpersonal closeness, compassion, politeness. Women are reliably higher than men, especially in the Scandinavian countries and in the countries where egalitarianism has progressed the farthest. So that's where the difference is maximized, which is one of the things James Damore pointed out quite correctly in his infamous Google memo. Okay, women are higher in negative emotion, so that's anxiety and emotional pain. That difference is approximately the same size. And again, that maximizes in egalitarian societies, which is extremely interesting. And then the biggest difference is the difference in interest between people and things. And so women are more interested in people and men are more interested in things, which goes along quite nicely with your car anecdote. But the thing about men interacting with men, again, is that it isn't that they respect each other's viewpoints. That's not exactly right. What happens with a man, and I know a lot of men that I would regard as remarkably tough people for one reason or another, and everything you do with them is a form of combat. Like if you want your viewpoint taken seriously, often you have to yell them down, and like they're not going to stop talking unless you start talking over them, you know. And it's not like men are automatically giving respect to other men, because that just doesn't happen. It's that the combat is there and it's expected. And one of the problems, and so this is part of the reason why I think men are bailing out of so much of academia and maybe the academic world in general, and maybe the world in general, is that men actually don't have any idea how to compete with women. Because the problem is that if you unleash yourself completely, then you're an absolute bully. And there's no doubt about that, because if men unleash themselves on other men, that can be pretty goddamn brutal, especially for the men that are really tough. And so that just doesn't happen with women ever. But so you can't unleash yourself completely. If you win, you're a bully. If you lose, well, you're just bloody pathetic. So how the hell are you supposed to play a game like that? You know, so I've worked with lots of women in law firms in Canada, for example, and high achieving women, like really remarkable people, I would say. And they're often nonplussed, I would say, by the attitude of the men in the law firm, because they would like to see everyone pulling together because they're all part of the same team. Whereas the men are like at each other's throats in a cooperative way, because they want the law firm to succeed, but they want to be the person who's at the top of the success hierarchy, right? So, and that doesn't jive well with the more competitive or cooperative ethos that's part and parcel of agreeableness. And so we don't really have any idea how to integrate male and female dominance hierarchies.
Exactly. That's exactly right. This is why I love this show, you know, Real Housewives, which Gloria Steinem scorns. And just last night, okay, I was watching an episode, all right, where the women were at each other, okay, at a party and all, in recounting. But I said this to you, but you said this to me, and the men got together there and said, well, this is the way they communicate, you know, with each other. And you know, said, you know, men, we men, okay, just will have a fist fight, and 10 minutes later we're going to have a beer at the bar next to each other, and so on. And I have observed that my entire
my daughter used to be really irritated about that, because she like most people was the target of feminine conspiratorial bullying at one. She's no pushover, my daughter, so it wasn't like this was a continual thing or that she didn't know what to do about it, but she had observed these girls conspiring against her and then blackening her name on Facebook, which is part and parcel of the typical female bullying routine, which is often reputation demolition, right? That there's a good literature on that. And then she'd watch what would happen if my brother or my son would have a dispute with his friends, you know, and maybe they were drinking and there was a dispute. They'd have a fight and then the next day they were friends again. And that's another thing that's strange, is that like men have a way of bringing a conflict to a head and resolving it, right? And that it isn't obvious to me that women have that same, perhaps you might call it a luxury, but it's also the case that men don't know what to do when they get into a conflict with a woman, because what the hell are you supposed to do, you know? Mostly what you're supposed to do is avoid it.